Hello, what is going on, guys? GZTV back with another video, and in this video we are going to be discussing The Walking Dead. It's the second to last episode. It's the 15th episode of Season 8. Yeah, today's going to be a pretty chill day for me. I don't really have much homework. Probably going to be streaming 2K. I already invested in some cards for tonight's game. Georges Niang, Cam Johnson, Royce O'Neal. Feel free to follow suit. But yeah, we're going to get into the plot. We're going to get into the critical reception, all that stuff. You guys know exactly how these videos go. And later tonight, if we have good playoff games, we have good playoff games. So at the Hilltop colony, Rick rereads his letter from his deceased son, Carl, urging Rick to end the war with Negan, start over, and help to rebuild a peaceful society. So a lot of interesting things are said by Carl in that letter, and yeah, a lot of cool memories are shared and whatnot. So, wow, this is okay. Yeah. Inside the sanctuary, Gregory tries to make amends with Simon, who has taken over the Saviors after claiming that Negan is dead. Gregory insists that he can help rescue or resecure the other communities, but Simon puts him to work instead. And he punched shit out of him. So Negan's supposed to be this brash, forceful dude. Simon said he didn't like that, but here he is, abusing another. I mean, Gregory is pretty much a savior at this point. In the woods outside that Oceanside community, Cindy and the other residents shun Aaron's attempts to protect their community despite him starving and dehydrating himself. He's been stuck in the woods trying to get them to maybe strike up a deal or something. I think for weapons, I want to say. Or so, I don't remember what they went to Oceanside for. After barely surviving a walker attack, Cindy and the others find an exhausted Aaron begging them to join the fight against the Saviors. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. As they would otherwise continue to be fearful of the outside world. I mean, these people are living in a lot more peace than anybody at Alexandria is. Meanwhile, Eugene oversees the workers making ammunition for the Saviors and is forced to dismiss an El Gabriel, who has purposely tampered with the bullets to make them ineffectual. So he's trying to help the Alexandrians out. As Eugene heads out the guards are quickly dispatched by Daryl and Rosita. They take Eugene captive, planning to keep him locked up to be able to use his intellect. While Daryl dispatches approaching walkers, Eugene is able to induce himself to vomit over Rosita. Eugene escapes and he hides in this pile of ashes or something. Outside the sanctuary, Dwight, still hiding his alliance with the militia, is surprised to see Negan, who had returned the night before. He's wow. He's really putting on this act. He's wow, Negan, you know what I mean? Dwight begins to explain what happened, but Negan is unconcerned and only reminds him about his loyalty to the Saviors. But Negan knows exactly what's going on with Dwight, and that's going to have some consequences. Later, Negan gathers his lieutenants for a meeting before Simon apologizes for the Hilltop disaster, even though while Negan was gone, he was unapologetic, which is really funny. He switched up quick. Negan then reminds Simon that he also orchestrated the killing of all the men and boys from Oceanside, which is really interesting because you didn't really know how Oceanside was all women, but yeah, Simon decided to kill all the men in Oceanside, and that's why they only have women. And that's an interesting thing to learn about him. This is something that made Negan keep an eye on Simon from then on, and he keeps kind of fucking up, and now Negan's well, this might be your last straw. Simon is forced to get on his knees, but then Negan declares Simon forgiven and instructs his lieutenants to set up sniper nests all around the hilltop to contain the residents in order to win a war of attrition. Shortly after the meeting, Negan again commends Dwight for staying true to the goal of the Saviors, even though I'm pretty sure he knows deep down at this point, even in the episode, that Dwight has very bad intentions. In his apartment, Dwight marks up a map for Rick and writes a message describing Negan's attack plan. Simon, anxious from the meeting, stops by and urges Dwight to help him overthrow Negan. Dwight agrees to meet with Simon to plan the coup sometime later, because he doesn't like Negan either, so they're gonna try to maybe plan an attack on Negan, So, in the courtyard, Dwight meets with Simon, who also brings Gregory and several other saviors that would like to see Negan eliminated. I mean, there probably are a decent amount of saviors that don't like Negan that much, right? Simon explains his plan for Negan's downfall and offers Dwight the opportunity to kill Negan firsthand, but Dwight unexpectedly whistles. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So Dwight kind of like keeping his loyalty to Negan, but it's not going to matter in the end, you know? Interesting enough. Negan, having been tipped off by Dwight, whistles in response and emerges from his hiding place. He's been listening the entire time. Simon plans to overthrow him, and he knows that now. All of the conspirators, except Simon and Gregory, are suddenly shot and executed by a group of hidden, loyal saviors. So yeah, those kind of like non-important saviors that were agreeing to go against Negan got shot and killed. Negan then angrily reprimands Simon for the massacre of the scavengers and going against his orders. And obviously, like, I kind of knew that when Negan got back and realized what Simon did, there were going to be consequences. Despite this and this backstabbing, Negan offers Simon a chance at leadership of the Saviors by fighting to the death. Whoever wins will lead the Saviors. In the sanctuary, with all the Saviors and workers gathered, Negan and Simon engage in a furious and brutal fistfight to see who will take over the Saviors. Simon initially gets the upper hand before Negan eventually overpowers him, beating Simon to the floor. Dwight uses the opportunity to pull Gregory aside, handing him the map to deliver to Rick, and direct him to a vehicle he previously prepared for a quick escape. You know, Gregory runs off, takes the plan to Rick and him, and yeah, it doesn't really matter because Negan knows exactly what Dwight's doing. He knows it. Negan, hovering over Simon, strangles his right man to death, all the while furiously berating Simon for ruining what chance they had left of making peace with the communities, and asserting that he'll now have to kill them all. Like, yeah, we could have made peace, we could have saved these people like our original mission was, but no, you had to go out there and kill them, you know? And he chokes him out, which was kind of surprising, honestly. Yeah, Simon is dead. Yeah. He then gives one final squeeze that crushes Simon's windpipe, killing him. Oh man, that noise. Afterwards, Gregory returns to Hilltop with the plans, but is thrown back in prison by Maggie, who then gives Dwight's map to Rick. Obviously, they don't really mess with Gregory that much. Walking Dwight back to his room, Negan offers Dwight to be his new right-hand man. Dwight accepts. Obviously, he wants the promotion. Simon dies. He can take the promotion. However, inside Dwight's room, Negan reveals who he picked up on his way back to the sanctuary. Laura, a high-ranking savior that witnessed Dwight's treachery during the night of the attack on Alexandria. So yeah, like I said before, Negan knows exactly what Dwight's motives are. Having learned of Dwight's betrayal, Negan deduces that Dwight was responsible for many of Rick's attacks on the Savior outpost, and explains that the map Dwight secretly conveyed to Rick will lead the militia right into the Savior's line of fire, saying the plan was fake. They faked a plan because they knew that Dwight was, like, betraying them, and this whole time they had Laura, and yeah. He then tells Dwight that he won't kill him, but rather has plans for him. Later, Eugene returns to the ammunition factory, more resolved to make sure to meet Negan's requirements for bullets. After having a freshly turned Simon chained into the sanctuary fence, Negan is contacted by Michonne over walkie-talkie. She reads Carl's letter to him, again reiterating his same request to end the war peacefully and start over. So yeah, kind of an interesting moment. You know, they're reading his thing. However, Negan refuses and states that Rick pushed him too far and that forgiveness is out of the question, vowing to kill her, Rick, and the entire militia. And again, Simon did kind of like ruin this. He finishes by saying no more talk before crushing the walkie-talkie with his foot. And that's the cliffhanger. Kind of an interesting way to leave off the episode. But yeah, this was a pretty good episode. I got an 89% with a 6.66 out of 10, 27 reviews. Stephen Ogg, you know, he made his final regular appearance in this episode after his character was killed by Negan. Ogg's performance was great, though. I think he played good as Simon throughout. Worth briskly cleans house to varying degrees of satisfaction, setting the stage for what could be one of the series' most explosive finales, assuming the show finally follows through on its promise of all-out war. They probably should end this war. Yeah, Stephen Ogg's performance was awesome. Once again, Stephen Ogg proves himself to be one of the best villains in the game. And in this episode of The Walking Dead, Ogg Simon makes his move to take over the sanctuary, but his timing proves to be a little off, of course. You know, this was a pretty good episode. I mean, all signs right now point to the finale being especially violent and deadly, which is good, because frankly, it's starting to seem like The Walking Dead's writers are as eager for this storyline to be over as so many of the rest of us have been. B+ on Entertainment Weekly. Last episode left us with a few lingering questions, and now we have some answers. It was a dialogue-heavy episode, but because there was so much going on, it felt brisk, tense, and urgent, and left behind the promise of a finale with all the extraneous gristle removed. 7.3 out of 10 on IGN. Worth, Season 8's penultimate episode, wrapped up the current Savior's Game of Thrones storyline involving Simon's attempts to take over as the lead Negan of the Negans, but it seemed like a lot, and a lot of time spent with some uninteresting Saviors just to get Negan to a place where he could line up with Rick's bloodlust. AV Club gave it a B. It's easy to admire the show's willingness to take out one of the Savior's most compelling characters in one go, but it's also another example of the show no longer willing to put anyone from the main credits in peril unless it's a season or mid-season finale. I don't really have much to say. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'm probably going to go watch me some Dexter for a little bit before I head out to class. Yeah. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day. Tonight we have 2 playoff games. Do I expect them to be good? I mean, I obviously expect the Warriors-Kings game to be good. Nets-Sixers might be a different story. But I'm out. Have a good rest of your guys' day.